to go? Can I get a thumbs up if you're all set to go, Mrs. Regner's class? Perfect. Grade 2, are you set to go? Thumbs up if you're set to go. Perfect. All right. So while we're waiting, I'm just going to introduce our speaker today. Her name is Veena, and she was born in Mumbai, India. And she's here today to talk to you about her family and what it was like for her growing up in India.
So I think Lee has decided that first we'll see, where I am. Like I'm in Montreal right now, which is not a bit far from where you are, but not very far. And then this is Canada, and from Canada we'll go to India, where I was born, in a place called Mumbai. So do you think, Lee, we should do that? We should just show them where things are on the map.
So Exeter is
here.
So that's
Toronto.
Yeah, so Exeter is here, Toronto is here, Seaforth is in and around here somewhere for those of you at Seaforth Public School. And if we just back up a little bit, we can see that this is Ontario, okay? And right next door to Ontario is Quebec. And where Veena is living is Montreal. So this is where Veena lives, in Montreal. Okay, so if we come back over here, Exeter is about over here where my mouse is, right above Lake Erie and just below Lake Huron. So Veena's actually Veena's quite far away. It would take probably the better part of a day to drive there. And Veena is
it's around 6 hours, so it's not too bad.
From Toronto. Oh, is it only 6?
You guys maybe a bit.
Sure. So that's where Veena lives now, is in Montreal. But she was born in Mumbai. So we're going to see just how far that is. Here we go now to Mumbai, India. All across the ocean. Okay, and I just slowed it down there. And here we keep going and going and going. And there is Mumbai, India. So if we zoom out, we can actually see that we traveled. Do you see the red dot still? Okay, we traveled all the way around the world to get to Mumbai, India.
Let me talk to you about my family in India. So when I was your age, I went to primary school like you guys, and I used to live at home with my mother, my father, and my grandma. My grandma lived with us, and that was really great for me because whenever I came home, she was there, and she was a very interesting person. She would tell me a lot of stories. Every evening we would sit outside in the garden. I had a nice little garden, and she would tell me a lot of stories. So because I became so interested in stories and writing, and my grandmother taught me to read and write when I was just already at home, because she said, oh, this girl is too restless, I can teach her something. So I became actually a journalist, which was a lot of writing, and in fact I even had published a book of short stories. And it looks like this is quite bright. And the other thing is, do you know that there are different types of families? Like sometimes it's just mom, dad, and the kids, right? Like that's the typical family. Also, but there's sometimes bigger families. So like for example, my grandmother lived with us, but sometimes people live mom, dad, children, and they live with uncle or aunt, some other people. So anybody know anybody who lives in a family that's not just mom, dad, and children?
So if you have a family that's a nuclear family with a mom, a dad, and maybe some brothers and sisters.
Stand up.
That's me.
That's me. All right, and sit down.
Another type of family we learned about is a single parent family, where it's either can be a mom or a dad that is raising you on their own.
All right, so if you live with just mom or just dad and your brothers and sisters, and maybe mom or dad lives somewhere else, that's quite a few of you. Now, I do have some friends away.
Oh, wow.
Who lives with just mom or just dad and brothers and sisters? Okay, so we have quite a few. So that's me. All right, thank you. Okay, you can sit down.
Another family that we talked about is a blended family, where your mom and dad may not be together anymore, but you still get to visit both family members. So you spend time at both places.
Yeah, back to me. So it's interesting. Like I used to live with my grandmother, but I'm married to this man. He's called Marc Antoine, and he is French Canadian. He's from Montreal, and he actually was in a family like that. His father and mother were separated, so he would live sometimes with his mom, sometimes with his dad. And actually, my mother-in-law has now adopted a girl. She's of course an adult now. So it was like she had an adopted family. So just around me, I used to live with my grandmother at home. So there's so many different types of families. So I don't know, Lee, do you think this is a good time to show some pictures of my granny and my brother? I think my father is in there too.
Okay. So I'm just going to share my screen again.
These are old pictures. They're black and white, like old pictures.
All right. So Veena,
that's my dad. I can see. Should I say this is my dad on the left? I'm sleeping in the middle there. And that's my brother on the right. And his name is Amar.
Okay.
And my name, is Veena. And that's me and my brother. Oops. That's me and my brother. We were all traveling actually to a holiday resort. At that point, we were all playing. And then the next picture, I think, is my granny and my grandpa. Me, Marc Antoine, and Genevieve, we went on a hike. There's a mountain here near Montreal called Mount Saint-Hilaire. And you can see it's fall in the background. Trees are yellow, so that's my mother-in-law, and we do things together. It's great fun. And now the next picture is of when my family, my mother and brother, were visiting me in Montreal. So that's my mom. She's wearing winter clothes. They wanted to come in winter. It was very different for them because they only used to hot weather. They said we want to see snow. So we made a snowman right here in my balcony, and that's us together when they were visiting. And next. And this is, we had all gone to for a church, like a concert together at the Notre Dame. It's a beautiful church here in Montreal. So that's my brother, my mom, and me, and all in this winter clothes. My mother had never worn a winter jacket. She had never worn winter shoes, thick shoes and things like that. So it was quite an adventure for her, and they enjoyed it. It was very different for them. So this is my mom in her house in India. She doesn't have a garden, but she has a balcony. And on my left-hand side is, on the left-hand side is my cousin, her name is Shashi, and on the right-hand side is my niece, Shashi's daughter. So you see the clothes that my mom and Shashi are wearing. It's another Indian costume. It's not a sari, but it's called shalwar, shalwar kameez. It's very casual with a scarf. So this dress is called a sari. It's very long. It's 9 yards. It's a long thing that you wrap around yourself, and it's a way to wear it. That my niece is wearing like more Western clothes. So we wear all kinds of clothes, Western, Indian, depending on what we want to do that day. And this picture is actually, you see on the left is my husband Marc Antoine, in the middle is my brother, on the right is my mother. We visit India too, right? They come here, we go there. So we were visiting, this is a palace in India, in the southern part of India. So that's me, and guess who's at the back? It's a real elephant. So we went to an elephant camp. I love elephants, and you see a few other pictures. So as I said, when I go to India, then I travel if I can travel with them a little bit. Because I go for a long time. I try to go for a month, and my mother tries to come here for a month, 2 months, long time. Because we don't see each other the rest of the time. It's only phone calls. So you can see the next couple of photos, which are just elephants, basically. So by the way, I do want to say one more thing about why I moved here. What I really like about Canada is there are people from all over the world here, right? So it's very interesting. In India, sometimes there are foreigners, but it's not so much. But here I can meet people from all over the world. I can have all kinds of different kinds of food, different kinds of music, different kinds of customs. So I think that's one very strong reason. And the other thing that it's multicultural in Canada, I think you've heard that. So I can still do my religion, do things that I like things that are my own from my family background and my traditions, and I can do like things that are Canadian, go and watch a hockey game. So it's nice to have so many choices.
Do you miss India?
Good one. I was waiting for that. I would say yes and no. I miss, one thing I really used to miss is speaking the languages, because I never spoke just English, I spoke many languages. Now that I've learned French, it's nice for me to have like a second language. I miss it in some ways, but I try to go back every year. I try to email my friends, and I try to keep in touch.
Could you teach us how to say thank you in your language?
Sure. So I'm going to actually teach you how to say thank you in the national language. It's called Hindi, because everybody understands that much more. And there are two words actually. So let's say the first one. It's Dhanyavad. Difficult?
Okay, can we break that into three parts? What's the first part? How do we say the first part?
Tan.
Okay.
Nya.
Nya.
Bad.
Bad.
That's very good. You guys are very good.
Okay.
Dhanyavad.
All right, so let's say it together on the count. Can you say it one more time, Veena, and then we'll say it on the count of three.
Dhanyavad.
Dhanyavad. Okay, so Dhanyavad. Okay, so on the count of three, Seaforth and Stephen, let's say thank you to Veena for her time today. 1, 2, 3. Dhanyavad.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Thank you very much for your time today. We really appreciate it. We enjoyed meeting you as well. Thank you for sharing your stories
It
with
was
us.
great meeting you too. Thanks
All
a lot.
right.
Enjoy
Say
the rest of the day.
goodbye.